Chapter 1. The tethered king. The night Elara found him, the forest had already warned her to turn back. Wind tore through skeletal branches, rattling dead leaves like whispered threats. Fog rolled thick and low across the ground, swallowing her ankles as she stumbled through the undergrowth. She'd been walking for hours, her waitress uniform still damp with spilled wine from the dinner shift, her backpack heavy with everything she owned that mattered, which wasn't much. 3 days ago, her landlord had changed the locks. 2 days ago, her boyfriend had emptied their joint account. Yesterday, her mother had called to say she'd always known Elara would fail. So she'd walked away from the city, away from the cramped apartment and the restaurant where customers snapped fingers at her like she was invisible. Away from the life that had curdled into something bitter and small. The hiking trail had seemed like mercy at dusk. Now, past midnight, it felt like a mistake. Elara stopped to catch her breath, her phone dead in her pocket, and that's when she heard it, a sound that didn't belong to wind or wildlife. A low, ragged breath, human, or something close to it. She should have run. Instead, she turned toward the sound, through the fog, past a crumbling stone wall thick with ivy. She saw him, a man, no. Something shaped like a man bound to an ancient oak tree. Silver chains wrapped his torso, wrists and throat, biting deep enough that dark stains spread across his torn shirt. His head hung forward, dark hair falling across his face, but even slumped in apparent unconsciousness. He radiated something that made her pulse spike with primal alarm, danger, power, otherness. Elara's rational mind screamed at her to back away, but her eyes caught on details that pinned her in place. The unnatural pallor of his skin, luminous even in darkness. The way the chains seemed to smoke faintly where they touched him. The absolute stillness of his chest, no rise and fall of breath, though she'd heard breathing moments ago. Jesus, she whispered. His head snapped up, eyes open, not human eyes. These were dark as pitch, endless as night sky, with something ancient swimming in their depths. They fixed on her with such intensity that her knees nearly buckled. Run. His voice was a ruined rasp, layered with gravel and something older than language. Run now, girl, or you'll regret mercy. Elara's feet remained planted. She'd spent 26 years being told what to do, where to go, how to be small and grateful and good. She was done with obedience. Who did this to you? She stepped closer, though every instinct screamed against it. Enemies. Who knew silver would hold me? A bitter smile curved his bloodless lips. Enemies who knew dawn comes in 4 hours, and sunrise will finish what they started. You're hurt. She could see it now, deep wounds beneath the chains, black blood seeping rather than red. I should call someone. There is no one to call. His gaze tracked her movement as she circled the tree, assessing the chains. And if you free me, little waitress, you may live to regret it. I am not a man. I am not safe. And I am very, very hungry. The waitress comment made her freeze. How did you? Your uniform, the wine stains, the exhaustion in your bones. His nostrils flared slightly. The scent of cooking oil and human weariness. You serve others. You always have. Something in his tone, not mockery, but recognition, made her throat tighten. She swallowed hard and examined the chains. They were secured with an old-fashioned padlock, the kind she'd seen in antique shops. The metal looked tarnished, etched with symbols she didn't recognize. What are you? She asked quietly. Damned. He watched her with unsettling focus. Ancient. Hungry enough to drain you dry if you get close enough, though I'd regret it after. House Voltaire bound me here for crimes I did commit, and crimes I did not. They'll return at dawn to watch me burn. House Voltaire? Elara's fingers found the padlock, tested its weight. Solid. Old. But old things broke. That sounds like something from a Gothic novel. We are older than your novels. His voice dropped lower, intimate as a secret. We are the reason your novels exist. Now go, before I stop warning you and start begging. Begging for what? For you to come closer. His eyes flashed with something between hunger and despair. For your wrist against my mouth. For the thundering pulse in your throat. You have no idea what you smell like to me, all that warm, living blood just beneath the skin. Leave, Elara, while I can still pretend to be noble. She jerked back. How do you know my name? Your name tag. He tilted his head toward her chest, where the plastic badge still read Elara in faded print. You're running from something. I can smell fear, but not the fresh kind. Old fear. The kind that lives in your bones from being hurt too many times. Tears burned behind her eyes. She blinked them back furiously. Shut up. Truth stings. He leaned his head back against the tree, closing those inhuman eyes. Go. Let me burn. It's what I deserve anyway. Elara stood there in the fog-soaked darkness, her rational mind warring with something deeper. This creature, this vampire, because what else could he be, should terrify her, should send her running back to civilization, such as it was, but he'd told her to run, had warned her, had seen straight through to her exhausted, battered soul and named it, and he was going to die at sunrise. She'd been left to burn to many times herself, abandoned when she was inconvenient, cast aside when she stopped being useful. I'm not leaving you. The words came out steady, surprising her. His eyes opened again, and this time she saw genuine shock flicker through their darkness. You should. I know. Elara set down her backpack and searched through it until she found the small toolkit she'd stolen from her ex's apartment. Bobby pins. A small screwdriver. But I'm not very good at doing what I should. You'll regret this. Probably. She knelt beside the chains, examining the lock more closely. But at least it'll be my choice to regret. For a long moment, silence stretched between them, thick with tension and something else. Something like recognition. Then he laughed, a dark, incredulous sound that seemed to surprise him as much as her. What's your name? Elara asked, working a bobby pin into the lock mechanism. Another pause. Then quietly, Theron. Well, Theron, she said, fingers steady despite her racing heart. Let's see if we both survive tonight. The lock clicked open. Chapter 2. Shelter and shadows. The chains fell away with a sound like breaking glass. Theron didn't move immediately. He remained slumped against the tree, head bowed, breathing if that's what the ragged sounds were, coming harsh and uneven. Elara stepped back, suddenly aware of how alone they were, how dark the forest pressed in around them, how utterly stupid she'd just been. Theron. Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. Don't. The word was ground out like gravel. Don't come closer. Not yet. She watched as his hands curled into fists against the earth, fingers digging into soil and dead leaves. The wounds where the silver had burned him looked worse now in the moonlight, black and weeping, edges raw. His whole body trembled with what looked like restraint. How long were you chained there? She asked, keeping her distance. 3 days. His head lifted slightly, though he still didn't look at her. 3 days since they took me. Since House Voltaire decided I'd grown too powerful to defiant. Since they used my own laws against me. Your laws? He stopped, seemed to reconsider. I was the Sable King, ruler of House Mordane for centuries. I wrote the accords that govern how our kind feeds, how we treat mortals, what lines cannot be crossed. Consent above all, protection for the vulnerable, no kills unless sanctioned by the Night Court. A bitter laugh escaped him. House Voltaire claimed I broke my own laws, that I murdered one of their fledglings. Did you? His eyes finally met hers, and she saw something raw in their depths. No. But the evidence was convincing, and in our world, perception matters more than truth. Elara's mind raced, trying to process vampires with courts and laws and political intrigue. It seemed absurd, except for the creature in front of her, clearly not human, clearly suffering, clearly more than the monsters from movies and books. Can you stand? She asked, eventually. He pushed himself up slightly, winced, then slumped back down. The silver poisoning runs deep. It will take hours to heal, maybe longer. Dawn comes in 3 hours. He glanced toward the east, though no light showed yet. You should go. If Voltaire's hunters return and find you helped me, then I'm already in danger. Elara surprised herself with how calm she sounded. The chains are open. They'll know someone freed you. Running now doesn't change that. Theron studied her with unsettling intensity. You're either very brave or very foolish. Foolish, she admitted. Definitely foolish. But I'm good at that lately. She moved closer slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. There's an old ranger station about a mile back. I passed it on the trail. It looked abandoned. You want to shelter with me? His voice held dark amusement. Alone, in an isolated building. While I'm weak and hungry and barely in control. You warned me away 3 times already. Elara crouched just outside his reach. If you wanted to hurt me, you would have done it the moment the chains fell. The silver weakened me. In an hour, when my strength returns, you'll still need somewhere to hide before sunrise. She met his inhuman gaze steadily. And I need answers. About what? I just walked into. About what House Voltaire is. About whether helping you just painted a target on my back. A strange expression crossed his face, something between respect and concern. You negotiate like someone used to bad bargains. I waited tables for 8 years. Every shift was negotiation. She stood, held out her hand. Deal? Shelter until you heal. Answers for both of us, and we figure out what comes next. Theron stared at her outstretched hand like it was the most confusing thing he'd encountered in centuries. Then slowly, he reached up and took it. His skin was cold. Not corpse cold, but coolness that spoke of something no longer quite alive. His grip was careful, controlled, as if he feared his own strength. Elara pulled, and he rose with surprising grace despite his wounds. Though he swayed once standing. I can walk, he said. But his voice lacked conviction. Sure you can. She ducked under his arm, taking some of his weight. Just lean on me until we're clear of the trees. He stiffened. You don't lean on anyone. Yeah, I'm getting that impression. She started walking, forcing him to move with her. But right now, you're injured and I'm not, so swallow the pride and let's go. For a moment, she thought he'd refuse. Then, with a sound that might have been a laugh or a sigh, he let her support him. They moved through the forest in tense silence, Elara's small flashlight cutting weak paths through fog and darkness. Theron's weight against her side felt wrong and right simultaneously, too cold, too still, but also solid and somehow reassuring. She could feel the tremors running through him, the effort it took to keep moving. Why did you do it? He asked suddenly. Free me. Risk yourself for a monster. Elara was quiet for several steps, navigating around a fallen log. Last week, my boyfriend took everything I had and disappeared. My landlord evicted me. My mother told me I was a disappointment who'd never amount to anything. She felt him listening, really listening. And I realized I'd let them all make me small. Told myself it was safer to be grateful for scraps. But scraps still leave you hungry and alone. So you freed a vampire out of spite? I freed you because you were chained to a tree and going to burn. She adjusted her grip on him. And because you told me to run. 3 times. Even though you needed help. She glanced up at his pale profile. That seemed worth something. Theron was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. It's been a very long time since anyone showed me mercy without wanting something in return. Who says I don't want something? Elara countered. I want answers, safety, maybe allies, if House Voltaire decides I'm a problem, practical. Something almost like approval colored his tone. Good. Never trust anyone who claims pure altruism. Everyone wants something. The ranger station emerged from the fog like a ghost, small, weathered, windows dark. Elara had noticed earlier that the door hung slightly ajar, the lock broken. Now, it looked like salvation. She helped Theron inside, found an old couch that smelled of mildew, but seemed sturdy. He sank onto it with a barely suppressed sound of pain, and in the moonlight streaming through grimy windows, she got her first clear look at him. Beautiful. That was the wrong word, but the only one that fit. Sharp features that seemed carved from marble, dark hair that fell past his shoulders, and those eyes deep and ancient and currently fixed on her with uncomfortable focus. You're staring, he observed. You're not human, she replied. I'm allowed to stare. His lips curved into something that might have been a smile. Fair enough. He closed his eyes, leaning back. There's a first aid kit in my coat pocket. Not that it will help much with silver poisoning, but Elara was already searching, finding a small leather pouch with supplies that looked decidedly non-standard. Bandages, yes, but also small vials of dark liquid, dried herbs she didn't recognize, and a wicked-looking knife. What is all this? Field medicine for my kind. He opened one eye. The brown vial is blood tonic. It won't heal me fully, but it will help until he stopped. Until what? His jaw tightened. Until I can feed properly. Which won't be tonight. Or tomorrow night. Not from you. Elara held his gaze. Because of your laws? Consent above all? Because you saved my life. He said it like a confession. And I don't repay debts with predation. No matter how hungry I become. She believed him, which was probably foolish, but then again, this entire night had been an exercise in foolishness. All right, Elara said, opening the brown vial. Then let's start with this, and you can tell me exactly what I've gotten myself into. Theron took the vial with hands that shook slightly. The truth might make you run, after all. Try me. He drank, grimaced, and began to speak. Chapter 3. Threads of blood. Theron spoke for an hour, and Elara's understanding of the world tilted on its axis. Vampires weren't scattered monsters hunting in shadows. They were organized, ancient, governed by intricate systems that made human politics look simple. 7 great houses ruled territories across the globe, each with their own customs, their own interpretations of the old laws. House Mordane, Theron's house, controlled the eastern territories and had built its reputation on restraint and order. House Voltaire, by contrast, ruled through fear. They believe strength comes from dominance, Theron said, his voice growing steadier as the blood tonic worked through his system. Where I enforce consent in feeding, they take what they want. Where I limit kills to criminals sanctioned by our courts, they see mortals as livestock. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, shadows playing across his face. For centuries, we've maintained an uneasy peace. But recently things changed. What changed? Elara sat cross-legged on the dusty floor, watching him with a mixture of fascination and lingering fear. I did. His smile was bitter. I proposed new laws at the last night council. Laws that would extend more protections to mortals. That would require vampires to register their feeding sources, ensure ongoing consent, face real consequences for violations. He rubbed at the burns on his wrists absently. House Voltaire saw it as weakness, as betrayal of our nature. So they framed you for murder. Yes. A young vampire named Lisette, barely 30 years turned, found drained in my territory with he stopped, jaw working, with evidence that suggested I'd lost control, killed recklessly, exactly what my laws forbid. Elara studied him in the dim light. She'd spent years reading customers who lied about tips, managers who made promises they wouldn't keep, her ex who swore he loved her while planning his exit. She'd learned to see beneath surfaces. What she saw in Theron was rage, yes, but also grief, and something like guilt. You knew her, she said quietly. Lisette. His head snapped up. She was one of mine, a fledgling I'd turned myself centuries ago, when she begged for escape from a marriage that would have destroyed her. His voice roughened. I gave her immortality and freedom, and someone used her death to destroy me. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate, but she meant them. Theron looked at her strangely. You believe me. Why? Because you're angry about the wrong things. Elara wrapped her arms around her knees. If you'd actually killed someone, you'd be defensive, making excuses. But you're angry about the betrayal, about Lisette being used as a pawn. That's not how guilty people sound. Something shifted in his expression, surprise giving way to something warmer. You're more perceptive than you pretend to be. I'm a waitress who got dumped and evicted in the same week. I think I've used up my lifetime supply of self-deception. She offered a wry smile. So what happens now? House Voltaire thinks you're dead at sunrise. That buys you time, right? Time, yes. But they'll know someone freed me when they find the chains empty. He stood slowly, testing his strength. Better than before, but still careful. And they'll hunt whoever did it. You included. Great. Elara pressed her palms against her eyes. So I traded one disaster for another. I can protect you. The words came quickly, almost urgent. If you stay with me, accept my house's protection. Whoa. She held up a hand. What does that mean exactly? Accept your house's protection? Theron hesitated, and she recognized the careful calculation of someone choosing their words. It would mark you as under Mordane's shield. Other vampires couldn't touch you without declaring war on my house. You'd be safe. And the cost? No cost. You'd owe me nothing. Elara laughed without humor. Everyone wants something, remember? You said that yourself. He met her gaze steadily. I want you alive. Because you freed me. Because House Voltaire will come for you whether you accept protection or not. Because he stopped. Seemed to struggle with something. Because I've spent 4 centuries surrounded by vampires who want power, territory, alliances. And you freed me expecting nothing. That's rare. The honesty in his voice made her chest tight. She stood, brushing dust from her jeans, and moved to the broken window. Dawn was still an hour away, the sky shifting from black to deep purple at the edges. If I accept your protection, what happens to me? She asked. Do I go back to my life? Pretend none of this happened? You could try. Theron moved to stand a few feet behind her, close enough that she felt the unnatural coolness radiating from him. But House Voltaire is thorough. They'll investigate who freed me. They'll find you eventually. So I'm dead either way. She watched her reflection in the dirty glass, ordinary, tired, unremarkable. That's what you're really saying. No, his voice was firm. With my protection, you're off limits. With my house's resources, we can keep you hidden until I prove my innocence. Until I find who really killed Lisette and make Voltaire answer for their conspiracy. Elara turned to face him. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. He held her gaze. I won't lie to you, it won't be comfortable. You'll have to stay in Mordane territory, live in places humans rarely see, learn our ways, our laws, how to navigate a world you didn't know existed. Why would you do all that? For a random waitress you just met? Theron was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was low, almost hesitant. 4 centuries ago I was human. I remember what it felt like to be small and powerless, to have no control over your own fate. He took a careful step closer. You gave me control back when you could have left me to burn. That means something in my world. Debts like that, they matter. So this is about honor? Elara searched his face looking for deception. Some vampire code? Partially. His lips curved into a faint smile. And partially because I suspect you're going to be interesting. You freed a Sable King from chains meant to hold him for eternity. Using bobby pins and spite. The smile widened slightly. I'm curious what else you're capable of. Despite everything, the danger, the fear, the absolute insanity of the situation, Elara felt something spark in her chest. Not attraction, exactly, though he was beautiful in that unsettling way, but recognition. The same recognition she'd felt when he'd named her exhaustion, her old fear. They were both running from something. Both caught in traps not entirely of their own making. All right, she said finally. I'll accept your protection. For now. Until we figure this out. Relief flashed across Theron's features, quickly masked. Thank you. But I have conditions. She straightened her spine. I'm not your possession. Not your servant. If I'm staying in your world, I'm there as she fumbled for the word. An ally? He suggested quietly. A partner, she corrected. Someone with a voice. With choices. For a moment, she thought she'd overstepped. Then Theron extended his hand, formal as a business deal. Partners then. You have my word. His hand was still cold when she took it, but his grip was steady, strong, and when he smiled, really smiled. Not the bitter expressions from before, it transformed his face into something almost human. We should move before dawn, he said, releasing her hand. I have a safe house in our north. We'll rest there. And tonight his expression hardened. Tonight, we start hunting for the truth. Elara grabbed her backpack, feeling the weight of what she'd just agreed to settle over her shoulders. A week ago, her biggest concern was making rent. Now she was partnered with a vampire king, running from an ancient house, caught in a conspiracy centuries in the making. Elara? Theron stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the lightening sky. Yeah, don't trust anyone in my world. Not even those who seem kind. His eyes glinted in the dimness. In vampire politics, everyone has an agenda. Even you? He smiled, dark and knowing. Especially me. Then he stepped into the pre-dawn shadows, and she followed. Chapter 4. The safe Husethi safe house wasn't what Elara expected. She'd imagined something gothic, a crumbling mansion with gargoyles and iron gates. Instead, Theron led her to a modern townhouse in a quiet suburb, the kind of place where neighbors mowed lawns on Saturdays and complained about property taxes. Brick facade, neat garden, security system blinking discreetly by the door. You live here? She couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. One of several properties. Theron keyed in a code, and the door clicked open. Vampires who only inhabit castles and crypts tend to attract attention. Blending in his survival, he gestured her inside. After you. The interior was surprisingly warm, hardwood floors, comfortable furniture, bookshelves lining the walls. Floor-to-ceiling blackout curtains covered every window, but soft lamps provided gentle illumination. It looked lived in, which somehow made it stranger. The bedroom upstairs is yours, Theron said, moving through the space with familiar ease, despite his lingering injuries. There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the dresser that should fit. The previous occupant was about your size. Previous occupant. Elara set down her backpack carefully. A mortal under my protection. She stayed here 3 months while we dealt with a situation. He disappeared into what looked like a study, returned with a leather-bound journal. She left safely, returned to her life. I keep the clothes for emergencies like this. Elara tried not to think too hard about how often he had emergencies requiring hidden mortals. What time is it? Nearly 6. Dawn is minutes away. He moved to check the curtain seals with meticulous attention. I'll need to rest soon. The day sleep isn't optional for my kind, it's biological imperative. I'll be deeply unconscious until sunset, vulnerable, Elara supplied. He glanced at her, something like approval in his expression. Yes, vulnerable, which is why I need you to understand the security system. He crossed to a panel by the door, showed her the controls. Red means armed. Anyone trying to enter will trigger alarms in 3 other Mordane properties. Help will come within minutes. And if someone gets in anyway? Theron opened a drawer, pulled out a wicked-looking blade with symbols etched along its length. Silver hurts all vampires, not just me. This is pure silver, consecrated under specific rites. A thrust to the heart will incapacitate long enough for you to run. He handed it to her. Handle first. Don't hesitate. If it comes to that, mercy will get you killed. The knife was heavier than she expected. Elara turned it over in her hands, noting how the symbols seemed to shimmer in the lamplight. You're trusting me with this, while you're unconscious upstairs. Yes, he said it simply, like it wasn't the most insane thing she'd heard all night. I could kill you in your sleep. You could try. His smile was dark. But you won't. You're not a killer, Elara. And despite your protests about practicality and self-interest, you have an inconvenient habit of mercy. He tilted his head, studying her. Besides, I'm trusting you with something far more dangerous than my life. What? My secrets. My weaknesses. The truth about what I am. He moved closer, and she fought the urge to step back. In my world, information is currency. You could sell what you know to House Voltaire. They'd pay handsomely for the location of my safe houses, my daily routines, my injuries. Elara's fingers tightened on the knife handle. Is that what you think I'll do? No, he said it with surprising certainty. I think you'll guard my sleep because you understand what it means to be betrayed. And because, for reasons I'm still trying to understand, you've decided I'm worth saving. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Elara looked away first, tucking the knife into her belt with hands that trembled slightly. You should rest. You look like hell. Charming. But his smile was genuine as he moved toward the stairs. There's one more thing you should know. What? The day sleep is deep, but not absolute. If you're in danger, real danger, I'll wake. Not quickly, not gracefully, but I will wake. His expression grew serious. So if something goes wrong, call for me. I'll hear you. Elara nodded, not trusting her voice. The intimacy of the statement, the idea that some part of him would remain aware of her even in supernatural sleep, felt like a line being crossed. A shift from a lies of convenience to something more complicated. Theron climbed the stairs slowly, his movements finally showing the full extent of his exhaustion. At the landing, he paused. Elara? Yeah, thank you. For the partnership. For not running. A beat of silence. For seeing past the monster. Then he was gone, a door closing softly overhead. Elara stood in the quiet townhouse, knife at her belt, surrounded by the domestic details of a vampire's secret life. Books on the shelves, not just old tomes but modern novels, philosophy texts, histories. A coffee table with scratches from use. Photos on the mantel, carefully arranged but covered in dust, showing faces from different eras. People Theron had known, loved, lost. She moved to examine them closer. A woman in Victorian dress, laughing. A young man in World War I uniform, solemn. A group photo from what looked like the 1970s. Theron himself barely visible at the edge, forever young, while those around him aged. 4 centuries of existence. 4 centuries of watching everyone he cared about die while he remained. The weight of it settled in her chest, not pity, exactly, but recognition of a different kind of loneliness. She'd felt small and disposable in her human life. What must it feel like to be eternal and still alone? Elara forced herself away from the photos and explored the rest of the house. The kitchen was stocked with human food, fresh vegetables, bread, coffee. He'd prepared for her arrival, or at least for the possibility of mortal guests. The bedroom upstairs was indeed ready, the bed made with clean sheets, clothes in the dresser as promised. Women's clothes in various sizes, all practical. Jeans, sweaters, nothing fancy. She showered, washing away the forest dirt and dried sweat, and changed into borrowed clothes that fit well enough. Then, exhausted, but too wired to sleep, she returned downstairs and armed the security system as Theron had shown her. The journal he'd left on the coffee table caught her attention. She picked it up, hesitant. Opening someone's journal felt like violation, but he'd left it out deliberately, hadn't he? Inside, his handwriting was elegant, old-fashioned. The entries were scattered, dated across decades. 1847 The fledgling Marcus challenges my authority. Says the consent laws make us weak. I fear he's not alone in this thinking. 19-3 found Elena dying in the street after the factory fire. She begged for life, any life. I turned her. God forgive me, I turned her. 1967 Elena married a mortal. She's happy. I told her I approved, though watching her love someone who will age and die while she remains. It breaks something in me. 2019 House Voltaire grows bolder. They killed a mortal under my protection and claimed accident. The Knight Council did nothing. The old laws are failing. 202 for Lisette is dead. My fledgling, my responsibility. Someone murdered her and staged it to look like my work. I know it was Voltaire. I cannot prove it. Without proof, I cannot act. And now they're coming for me. Elara closed the journal carefully, her throat tight. These weren't the writings of a monster. They were the chronicles of someone trying to hold on to humanity while being anything but human. Someone who'd loved and lost, who'd made hard choices, who'd tried to build something better than the violence of his nature. She curled up on the couch, silver knife within reach, and watched the morning light try to penetrate the blackout curtains. Somewhere upstairs, Theron lay in supernatural sleep, trusting her to guard him, trusting her with his life. It should have terrified her. Instead, she felt something shift in her chest, a sense of purpose she hadn't experienced in years. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was part of something larger, darker, infinitely more dangerous, and for the first time since her life had collapsed, she didn't feel small. Her phone, charged now from an outlet, buzzed with messages. Her ex, demanding to know where she was. Her former landlord, threatening legal action. Her mother, passive-aggressive concern wrapped in criticism. Elara turned off the phone and set it aside. That life felt distant now, like something that had happened to someone else. She was in a vampire's safe house, armed with silver, partnered with a king accused of murder. She should have been planning her escape. Instead, she found herself planning how to help him. Chapter 5. Unholy Alliance. Elara woke to the sound of breaking glass. She jolted upright on the couch, heart hammering, the silver knife already in her hand, though she didn't remember grabbing it. Afternoon light filtered weakly through the blackout curtains. She'd slept for hours, exhaustion finally claiming her. Another sound, footsteps, multiple sets, moving with predatory quiet through the house. Theron, she called out, scrambling to her feet. No response from upstairs. The day sleep held him still, vulnerable, exactly as he'd warned. A figure appeared in the doorway, tall female, with platinum hair pulled back severely and eyes that gleamed red in the dimness. Not human. Definitely not human. Well, the woman said, her voice like silk over steel. What do we have here? A little mortal playing guard dog. Two more vampires flanked her, both male, both watching Elara with predatory interest. The one on the left smiled, revealing elongated canines. She smells terrified. And alone, not alone. Elara forced the words out steady, despite her racing pulse. This house is under House Mordane's protection. You're violating sanctuary law. The woman laughed, a sound devoid of warmth. Sanctuary law? Child, there is no more House Mordane. Not after their king murdered one of ours and fled like a coward. She took a step closer. I am Vivian of House Voltaire, and you're trespassing in what will soon be our territory. Elara backed toward the stairs, keeping the knife visible. Her mind raced through everything Theron had told her about vampire politics, searching for leverage. The Knight Council hasn't sanctioned a territory transfer. You have no legal claim here. Legal claim. Vivian's smile was razor sharp. How delightfully naive. Tell me, mortal, did the Sable King fill your head with pretty lies about laws and honor before he used you to escape? He didn't use me. I chose to help him. Even better. Vivian glanced at her companions. She's loyal. Voltaire will pay well for information delivered by a willing source. Her attention returned to Elara. Where is Theron? We know he brought you here. We've been watching this property since dawn. Elara's grip tightened on the knife. They'd been waiting, watching. That meant they knew Theron was vulnerable upstairs, but hadn't entered until what? They needed something first? I don't know where he is. She lied. He left me here and said he'd return tonight. Liar. The word was soft, but lethal. Vivian moved with inhuman speed, crossing the space between them in a heartbeat. Her hand locked around Elara's wrist, cold and impossibly strong. I can hear your pulse racing. Smell the adrenaline. You reek of deception. Pain shot up Elara's arm as Vivian's grip tightened. The silver knife clattered to the floor. Let her go. The voice came from the stairs, rough with sleep, but commanding. Theron stood on the landing, still dressed in his torn clothes, silver burns visible on his exposed skin. He looked like death, barely standing, but his eyes blazed with ancient fury. The Sable King rises. Vivian released Elara with a shove that sent her stumbling. How touching. Playing hero for your pet mortal, even when you can barely stand. This is neutral ground, Vivian. Theron descended the stairs slowly, each step deliberate. Protected by the Accords of 1689. You have no authority here. The Accords don't apply to murderers. Vivian's smile was victorious. The Night Council convenes in 3 days. Until then, you're fair game. Then face me. Theron reached the bottom of the stairs. Not her. She's innocent in this. Innocent? Vivian circled them both like a shark. She freed you from sanctioned judgment. That makes her complicit. That makes her ours. Her red eyes fixed on Elara with predatory hunger. Unless, of course, you're willing to negotiate, Fallen King. What do you want? Theron's voice was controlled, but Elara heard the edge of desperation beneath. Your confession. Signed, sealed, delivered to the Night Council. Vivian stopped circling. Admit you killed Lisette. Admit you've broken your own precious laws. Surrender your house, your territories, your titles. Do that, and we let the mortal go unharmed. No, the word came from Elara, surprising everyone, including herself. Don't do it. Theron's gaze snapped to her, something raw in his expression. Elara, they're lying. She faced Vivian directly, though her legs shook. If you wanted just a confession, you'd have taken Theron at the tree. You want something else. Something you can't get if he's already dead. Vivian's smile faltered slightly. Clever girl. They need you functional. Elara continued, the pieces clicking together. Able to transfer power, to officially dissolve House Mordane. A confession from a corpse means nothing legally, but a living king surrendering his house, that's binding. Theron's expression shifted from concern to calculation. She's right. You need the dissolution rituals performed by me, witnessed, recorded. You're not here to kill me, you're here to break me. Does it matter? Vivian's voice hardened. The outcome is the same. You lose everything. But this way, the mortal lives. Refuse, and I'll drain her here, now, and leave you to watch. The threat hung in the air, visceral and immediate. Elara saw Theron's hands clench, saw the war playing across his features, 4 centuries of honor and law fighting against the brutal calculus of survival. There's a third option. Elara said quietly, all eyes turned to her. We have 3 days until the Night Council convenes. She looked at Theron, willing him to understand. 3 days to prove your innocence. To find who really killed Lisette and expose Voltaire's conspiracy. She turned to Vivian. Unless you're afraid of what we might discover. Vivian's laugh was harsh. You think you can overturn a closed case in 3 days? With what resources? The Sable King is a fugitive. His house is scattered. His allies have abandoned him. Then you have nothing to fear from giving us that time. Elara kept her voice steady. Let us investigate. If we find nothing, Theron will appear before the council and face judgment. If we find proof of his innocence, she paused deliberately. Then House Voltaire faces consequences for false accusation. Elara. No, Theron started. It's the law, isn't it? She cut him off. False accusations against a Sable King carry severe penalties. Vivian knows that. That's why she wants the confession now, before you can prove anything. Vivian's expression turned glacial. You're playing games. You don't understand, mortal. Maybe. Elara's heart hammered, but she held her ground. But I understand desperation. And I can smell it on you just as clearly as you smell fear on me. For a long moment, silence stretched taut as a wire. Then Vivian smiled a terrible, knowing smile. 3 days, she said. But understand this. Both of you, we will be watching. Every move, every breath. And if you run, if you try to disappear into the shadows, we will find everyone you've ever protected. Every mortal under Mordane's shield. Every fledgling bearing your mark. We will make them suffer in ways that violate every precious law you've ever written. She moved to the broken window, her companions following. 3 days. Sable King. Prove yourself innocent, or surrender everything, including her. Then they were gone, vanishing into the afternoon shadows with supernatural speed. Elara's legs gave out. She sank to the floor, the silver knife cold against her palm where she'd managed to reclaim it. Her whole body shook with delayed shock. Theron was beside her instantly, kneeling, despite his obvious weakness. That was either the bravest or most foolish thing I've ever witnessed. Foolish, she managed. Definitely foolish. Did I really just negotiate with vampire assassins? You did. His hand hovered near her shoulder, not quite touching. You bought us time we didn't have. And you saw through Vivian's strategy faster than I did. He paused. You saved my life. Again. Elara looked up at him. At the ancient creature who'd trusted her enough to sleep while she stood guard. Who'd woken from day sleep, something he'd implied was nearly impossible because she called his name. Partners, she said hoarsely. Remember? His expression softened into something almost tender. Partners, he agreed. Then, more seriously. But Elara, 3 days isn't enough time. Finding evidence, proving a conspiracy, navigating the night court politics, it's impossible. Then we'd better start now. She pushed herself to standing, ignoring her trembling hands. Tell me everything about Lisette. Where she died, who found her, what evidence they have, everything. Theron rose with her. And for the first time since she'd found him chained to a tree, she saw something like hope flicker in his ancient eyes. You're remarkable, he said quietly. I'm terrified, she corrected. But I'm also really tired of running from things. So let's run towards something instead. His smile was dark and fierce. Then let's hunt. Chapter 6. Blood and Truth. Night fell, and with it came clarity. Theron spread documents across the dining table, photographs, witness statements, autopsy reports written in elegant script. Elara stood beside him, studying each piece with the methodical attention she'd once used for double-checking receipts and inventory. Lisette was found here. Theron pointed to a photograph of an abandoned warehouse, its interior gutted by fire. The old textile factory on the border between Mordane and Voltaire territories. Neutral ground, technically, which made the crime fall under joint jurisdiction. Elara examined the photo. Who found her? A mortal watchman making his rounds. He called the police first, didn't realize what she was until Voltaire's enforcers arrived and claimed the body. Theron's jaw tightened. By the time my people learned of it, Voltaire had already contaminated the scene, controlled the narrative. What did the autopsy show? Complete exsanguination. Drained so thoroughly it suggested loss of control, frenzy feeding. He pulled out another document, his handwriting, covering the margins with notes. But Lisette was 300 years old. Frenzy is a fledgling problem, new vampires who can't control their hunger. An ancient like her would never drain someone accidentally, let alone be drained herself, unless she was restrained. Elara studied a close-up photograph of Lisette's wrists. Faint marks, barely visible. Are these burns? Theron leaned closer, his shoulder brushing hers. Silver. I noted that in my initial investigation, but Voltaire dismissed it. Said she might have worn silver jewelry that reacted poorly. That's ridiculous. Why would a vampire wear silver? Exactly. His voice held grim satisfaction. But the Night Council accepted Voltaire's explanation. They wanted this closed quickly, quietly. A Sable King gone rogue is dangerous for everyone. It undermines the entire system of laws I built. Elara circled the table, looking at the evidence from different angles. Her years waitressing had taught her to see patterns, which customers ran tabs, which managers skimmed tips, which situations would turn ugly. This was the same skill, just higher stakes. The location bothers me, she said. Why meet at an abandoned warehouse? That's where people go when they don't want witnesses. Lisette told her companion she was meeting someone about urgent house business. Theron shuffled through statements. She didn't say who. Left at midnight. Said she'd return before dawn. But she didn't. No. And the companion, a fledgling named Marcus, claims he saw me leaving the warehouse around the time she died. Theron's expression darkened. Except I was in council meetings that entire night. Witnesses confirmed it. So either Marcus is lying, or he saw someone who looked like you. Elara met his gaze. Can vampires shapeshift? Take on other appearances? Some can. It's a rare gift, requires centuries to master. He paused. I know perhaps 5 vampires with that ability. 3 are dead. 1 is my oldest ally. The last works for Voltaire? Not officially. But Silas has always been flexible in his loyalties. Theron pulled out a photograph of a male vampire, handsome in a cold way, with silver hair and calculating eyes. He's ancient, powerful, and he owes Voltaire significant debts. Elara studied Silas's image. If he can shift, he could have impersonated you. Killed Lisette. Let Marcus see you leaving. Perfect frame. Possible. But proving it requires either catching him in the act or making him confess. Theron's smile was bleak. Neither is likely. Silas hasn't been seen since Lisette's death. He's gone to ground somewhere. Even my intelligence network can't find him. Then we don't start with Silas. Elara tapped the photo of Marcus. We start with the witness. He's the linchpin. His testimony is what made the case against you. If we can prove he's lying or mistaken, he's protected by Voltaire. Untouchable. Everyone's touchable if you know their pressure points. She looked at Theron steadily. You've been thinking like a king, all honor and direct confrontation. But sometimes you need to think like a waitress. Meaning? Meaning people who serve, notice everything. We see who's drunk, who's cheating, who's lying to their spouse. We know secrets because nobody thinks we're important enough to guard against. She leaned against the table. Marcus is a fledgling, right? Young, probably insecure, definitely trying to prove himself to his new house. That's a pressure point. Theron studied her with growing interest. You want to manipulate him. I want to talk to him. Away from Voltaire's supervision. Find out what he really saw, what he was promised for his testimony. She crossed her arms. You said Voltaire will be watching us. Fine, let them watch you. Send you on some obvious investigation. Meanwhile, I slip out and find Marcus. Absolutely not. Theron's response was immediate. You're mortal, untrained in our ways. Marcus might be a fledgling, but he's still dangerous. I'm also invisible to your world. Elara pushed back. A random human woman approaching a vampire in a coffee shop, a bar, wherever he spends his evenings. That's not threatening. That's curiosity. Maybe attraction. I can get close in ways you never could. And if he realizes who you are, if he connects you to me, then I run, fast. She held his gaze. Theron, we have 3 days. We can't waste time on safe options. You need to trust me. The word hung between them, trust. The foundation of their hastily built partnership, tested already, but not yet proven. Theron's expression was conflicted. Ancient caution warring was something else. You could die, he said quietly. I could die anyway. Voltaire made that clear. She softened her voice. But at least this way, I'm choosing the risk. Not having it forced on me. He was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. When he spoke again, his voice was rough. 4 centuries ago, I watched someone I cared for die because I was too controlling, too certain. I knew the best way to protect her. He refocused on Elara. I've tried not to make that mistake again. Then don't start now. She offered a small smile. Besides, I'm harder to kill than I look. I survived 8 years in food service. That surprised a genuine laugh from him, brief but real. You're using humor to deflect from danger. I do the same thing. Great minds, she said lightly. Then, more seriously, let me do this, please. Theron moved to the window, looking out at the dark street. Elara watched the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands flexed and released. Finally, he turned back. I'll find Marcus's location. His habits, his vulnerabilities. His eyes met hers, intense with concern. But you take a phone with direct line to me. You wear a tracker. And if anything feels wrong, you leave immediately. Deal. And Elara. He crossed back to her, close enough that she could feel the coolness radiating from him. If this goes badly, if Voltaire discovers what you're doing, they won't just kill you. They'll make it hurt, make it last. Use you against me. She swallowed hard, but held her ground. I know. And you're still willing? I freed you from silver chains knowing it might kill me. She met his intense gaze. This isn't actually more dangerous than that. Just more calculated. Something shifted in his expression, respect, concern, and beneath it, something warmer. Dangerous in a different way. You're either the bravest person I've met, or the most foolish. Yeah, we've established that. She smiled, despite the fear coiling in her stomach. Now stop trying to talk me out of it and tell me everything I need to know about Marcus. His triggers, his fears, what he drinks, who he wants to impress. Every detail. Theron nodded slowly, then moved to a laptop and began typing. Marcus was turned 6 months ago by a Voltaire lieutenant named Christophe. He's ambitious, insecure about his newness to vampire society, desperate to prove his worth to his house. Files begin appearing on screen: surveillance photos, behavioral reports. He frequents a nightclub called Nocturne on the east side. Voltaire territory, but neutral ground by custom. Does he feed there? Sometimes. But he's careful. follows the consent protocols even though his house doesn't require it. Theron pulled up more images. He's trying to be good. That's important. Why? Because good people can be reached. Theron looked at her. Bad people are predictable, they act from self-interest. But someone trying to do right, they have a conscience. And a conscience can be leveraged. Elara studied Marcus's photo, young-looking, maybe mid-20s when turned, with nervous eyes and careful posture. He didn't want to testify against you. No, I don't think he did. Theron's voice was thoughtful. But Voltaire gave him no choice. And now he's trapped by his own testimony. Then we give him a way out. Elara met Theron's eyes. We offer him what Voltaire can't, forgiveness. A chance to tell the truth. You think he'll take it? I think he's scared. And scared people make mistakes. She glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. When does he usually arrive at Nocturne? Around 1 a.m. Then I have an hour to prepare. She straightened, feeling adrenaline start to override fear. What do I wear to a vampire nightclub? Despite everything, Theron smiled. Something that helps you blend in. And Elara, yeah, come back alive. That's an order from your partner. She touched his arm briefly, his skin cold but solid under her fingers. I'll do my best. Chapter 7. Nocturne Club pulsed with a heartbeat that wasn't quite human. Elara stood outside Nocturne, dressed in borrowed clothes from the safe house, black jeans, a deep crimson silk blouse, leather jacket. Theron had given her a small earpiece, nearly invisible, and a silver bracelet that doubled as a tracker. His voice came through, low and steady. Second thoughts are allowed. Too late for that. She touched the bracelet reflexively. I'm going in. Marcus usually sits in the upper gallery east corner. He likes to observe before engaging. A pause. Elara, remember, he's stronger and faster than you. Don't let him isolate you completely. Got it. Wish me luck. Luck. But his voice carried something deeper than the word. Implied concern, maybe even fear. Elara pushed through the entrance and into another world. The club was all velvet shadows and blood-red lighting. Music thrummed through the floor, something electronic and hypnotic that seemed designed to lower inhibitions. The crowd was mixed, mortals dancing with abandon, some with telltale puncture marks visible on their throats, and vampires moving through them like sharks through water. She could tell the difference now. Vampires had a quality of stillness even when moving, an otherness that raised primitive instincts. And their eyes watching, always watching, assessing every mortal like livestock at market. Elara made her way to the bar, ordered whiskey she didn't intend to drink, and scanned the upper gallery. Their east corner, just as Theron predicted. Marcus sat alone at a table, nursing something dark in a crystal glass. Blood, probably. He looked uncomfortable, shoulders hunched, gaze darting around nervously. I see him, she murmured into the earpiece. Good. Take your time. Let him notice you first. She sipped her whiskey and waited. Let her gaze wander naturally across the club, pausing occasionally on Marcus, but not lingering. Let herself seem like what she was supposed to be, a mortal exploring dangerous territory. Curious, but cautious. It took 15 minutes before Marcus's attention fixed on her. She felt it like weight, that predatory focus. Elara met his eyes briefly, offered a small, uncertain smile, then looked away. Playing shy, playing vulnerable. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she forced herself still. Another 5 minutes. Then Marcus descended from the gallery, moving with the fluid grace of his kind. He approached the bar slowly, deliberately, non-threatening. First time at Nocturne? His voice was softer than she expected, almost gentle. Elara turned, feigning surprise. That obvious? Only a little. He smiled, and she noticed he kept his fangs carefully hidden. I'm Marcus, and you look like someone who's not sure if she wants to stay or run. Elara, she extended her hand, pleased, when it barely trembled. And you're right, this place is intense. His handshake was brief, cool, controlled. It can be, especially for mortals who aren't used to our world. He glanced at her neck, then quickly away. Good manners. Theron had been right, Marcus was trying to be good. Our world? She tilted her head, playing curious. Are you saying you're vampire? Yes. He said it matter-of-factly. Better to be direct. Saves awkward discoveries later. Theron was right about him, she murmured, too quiet for Marcus to hear, but loud enough for the earpiece. He leads with honesty. Through the connection, she heard Theron's sharp intake of breath at her use of his name, but he said nothing. That's very honest, Elara said to Marcus. Most people would dance around it. I'm not most people. Something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty, maybe loneliness. And lying about what I am feels wrong. Even if the truth scares people away. Does it? She met his gaze. Scare people away? Usually. He gestured to the empty bar stool beside her. May I, please? Marcus sat, maintaining careful distance. So what brings someone like you to a place like this? You don't seem the type to chase vampire thrills. Maybe I'm trying to understand something. Elara chose her words carefully. The world is bigger than I thought, stranger, and I'd rather understand it than fear it. Wise, he studied her with surprising intensity. Though understanding doesn't always remove the fear, no, but it helps. She paused, then took the leap. Can I ask you something? About vampire politics? Marcus tensed slightly. That's a dangerous topic, I know, but I heard something today, and I can't stop thinking about it. She lowered her voice. About a trial. A Sable King accused of murder. Is it true? The color what little there was drained from Marcus's face. Where did you hear about that? Around. She kept her tone light, curious. It just seems so theatrical. A king on trial. Houses with ancient laws. It sounds like something from a movie. It's real. His voice was tight. And it's not something you should be curious about. That situation is complicated. Dangerous. Were you involved? She watched him carefully. You seem to know a lot about it. Marcus stood abruptly. I should go. Wait, Elara touched his arm, felt him flinch. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I'm just trying to understand this world you live in. Some things are better not understood. But he hadn't pulled away from her touch. That trial, people died because of it. More will die before it's over. Tell me, Elara said softly. Please, you seem like someone who wants to do the right thing. Someone trapped by circumstances. Marcus stared at her, and she saw the war playing out behind his eyes. Then slowly, he sat back down. What do you know already? That a Sable King named Theron was accused of killing one of his own. That a witness placed him at the scene. She paused deliberately. That the witness was young, probably scared, possibly coerced. How do you? Marcus's eyes widened. You're with him. You're the mortal who freed him from the chains. Elara's heart stuttered, but she held his gaze. Yes. Get away from her. Theron's voice came sharp through the earpiece. Now, Elara, he knows. Run. But Marcus didn't attack. Instead, he slumped forward, head in his hands. God, I was hoping I was wrong about you. Hoping it was coincidence. Marcus, you need to leave. Now. Before he looked up suddenly, his expression shifting to pure terror. It's too late. They're here. Elara followed his gaze and saw 3 vampires descending from the upper gallery. One of them was Vivian, her platinum hair stark against the darkness, her smile predatory. The other 2 were unfamiliar, but clearly dangerous, both male, both moving with the confidence of trained killers. Well, Vivian's voice cut through the music. The little mortal has teeth, after all. Coming into our territory, questioning our witnesses. How bold. Marcus stood, positioning himself slightly between Elara and the approaching vampires. The gesture was small, but significant. She didn't know where she was. I was just protecting her? Vivian laughed. How touching. But your loyalty is to House Voltaire, Marcus. Not to mortals who conspire with murderers. I'm leaving, Elara said, standing slowly. I don't want trouble. Too late for that. Vivian moved faster than Elara could track. Suddenly beside her, cold fingers wrapped around her wrist. You've been trouble since the moment you freed the Sable King, and now you'll answer for it. Let her go. Marcus's voice was stronger now. She's under interrogation. I was extracting information for the house. You're interrupting my work. Vivian's eyes narrowed. Is that so? Yes. Marcus met her gaze steadily. And unless you want to explain to Lord Christoph why you interfered with sanctioned intelligence gathering, I suggest you leave us to it. The lie was smooth, delivered with just enough confidence. Elara felt Vivian's grip tighten painfully, then slowly release. You have 1 hour, Vivian said coldly. After that, she's mine. And Marcus, if I discover you're lying, you'll burn alongside them. She departed with her companions, leaving heavy silence in their wake. Marcus turned to Elara, his expression tormented. You need to leave, now, before I lose my nerve and they return. Come with me, Elara said impulsively. If you want out, if you're tired of being Voltaire's pawn, come with me. Theron can protect you. Theron can't even protect himself. But Marcus's voice held longing. And I testified against him. Why would he shelter me? Because you just saved my life. Elara held out her hand. Because you're trying to be good in a world that punishes goodness. Because everyone deserves a chance to tell the truth. Marcus stared at her outstretched hand. Through the earpiece, she heard Theron's sharp command. If he agrees, bring him. Quickly. I don't deserve mercy, Marcus whispered. None of us do, Elara replied. But maybe that's why it matters. For a heartbeat, Marcus wavered. Then he took her hand. Run, he said. We run now, or we don't make it out at all. They ran. Chapter 8. Sanctuary and confession. They burst through the safe house door at 3 a.m., Marcus wild-eyed and shaking. Elara's heart still hammering from the chase through dark streets. Theron stood waiting in the foyer. And the air between him and Marcus crackled with tension. You brought him here. Theron's voice was ice. To my sanctuary. The vampire who testified against me. He saved my life, Elara said, stepping between them. And he wants to tell the truth. Isn't that what we need? What I need, Theron said, each word precise, is to not have Voltaire's witness standing in my home, potentially tracking our location, leading them straight to us. I'm not tracked. Marcus's voice was hollow. I disabled my house marker before we left the club. They'll know by now. They'll be coming for me too. Theron moved with inhuman speed, slamming Marcus against the wall, forearm across his throat. Give me one reason not to tear out your lying tongue. Theron, stop. Elara grabbed his arm. The muscle beneath was iron hard, immovable. This isn't you. This isn't the king who built laws on consent and justice. That king died when his fledgling was murdered, and this creature. He pressed harder. Marcus, gasping, condemned me with false testimony. It wasn't false. Marcus choked out the words. I saw you. I saw your face leaving that warehouse. I swear it. Theron's hand tightened. I was in council, I know. Marcus's eyes were desperate, streaming tears that looked like blood in the dim light. I know you were, but I saw you anyway. Your face, your walk, your presence, everything that makes you unmistakably the Sable King. His voice broke. That's why I testified. Because I was certain. Because what I saw was real. Theron froze. Slowly, he released Marcus, stepping back. Explain. Marcus slumped against the wall, rubbing his throat. Lisette contacted me that night. Said she had information about Silas the shapeshifter. She'd discovered he was working for Voltaire, that he was planning something that would destabilize House Mordane. He looked at Theron with raw anguish. She was trying to protect you. Elara moved closer, her mind racing. She went to meet Silas. Yes, I begged her not to go alone. But she insisted. Said it had to be secret, that if word got out she was investigating Voltaire's pet shapeshifter, they'd move against her. Marcus's voice turned bitter. She was right. They did. You followed her, Theron said quietly, from a distance. I couldn't let her face danger alone. She was my mentor, the one who taught me control after I was turned. Marcus moved to the couch, sank down as if his legs could no longer hold him. I saw her enter the warehouse, waited outside. Then I heard her scream. The room fell silent except for the ticking of a clock somewhere in the darkness. I ran inside, Marcus continued, but I was too late. She was on the ground, throat torn open, blood everywhere. And you, he looked at Theron. You were standing over her body, blood on your hands. That cold expression you get when you're furious. It wasn't him, Elara said. It was Silas, wearing Theron's face. I know that now. Marcus's laugh was broken. But in that moment, I was certain. And when Silas turned and saw me, he ran, disappeared into the shadows so fast I couldn't follow. He pressed his palms against his eyes. By the time Voltaire's enforcers arrived, I was cradling Lisette's body covered in her blood, and I told them what I'd seen. The Sable King, the murder, all of it. Theron moved to the window, his back rigid. When he spoke, his voice was raw. Did Silas know you were there? I don't know. Maybe. He looked right at me before he fled. But Marcus paused. It could have been surprise at being discovered. Or it could have been calculation. Making sure I saw him wearing your face. A perfect frame, Elara said softly. Kill Lisette. Let a loyal fledgling witness it. Let Marcus's testimony do the rest. They didn't need evidence because they had something better, an honest witness who believed what he saw. I'm so sorry. Marcus's voice broke completely. I got her killed. My testimony condemned you. I failed everyone I cared about. Theron turned from the window, and Elara saw something she hadn't expected in his expression, not rage, but grief. Shared grief. You loved her, Theron said quietly, not romantically. But yes, she was. Marcus struggled for words. She was the first person in my new life who treated me like I mattered, who believed I could be good despite what I'd become. She had that effect on people. Theron moved closer, sat across from Marcus. 300 years I knew her, watched her grow from a frightened fledgling into someone wise and kind and impossibly brave. His hands clenched. Someone used her goodness against her, against us both. Silas, Marcus said. It has to be. He's the only vampire with the skill to impersonate you so perfectly. But I don't know where he is. No one does. He vanished completely after that night. Elara paced, her mind working through the pieces. Voltaire must be hiding him, protecting their asset until after the Night Council convenes. Once you're convicted, Theron, once House Mordane is dissolved, then Silas becomes useless. Maybe even dangerous. A loose end who knows too much. They'll kill him, Theron agreed. Eliminate the evidence of their conspiracy. Unless we find him first. Marcus looked between them. If we can make him confess, show that he impersonated you, it would invalidate my testimony, Marcus finished. Prove I was deceived. Clear your name. Today's, Theron said grimly. We have 2 days to find a vampire who's successfully hidden from every intelligence network in the region. It's impossible. No, Elara stopped pacing. It's not. Because Silas has a weakness. Both vampires looked at her. He's being protected by Voltaire, which means he's somewhere in their territory. Somewhere secure. She turned to Marcus. You've been part of House Voltaire for 6 months. You know, their properties, their safe houses, where they hide things they don't want found. Marcus's expression shifted to understanding. The catacombs. There's an old church on the north edge of Voltaire territory, been abandoned since the 1800s. The catacombs beneath it are extensive, warded with ancient magic. Voltaire uses them to hide problematic assets. Can you get us in? Theron asked. Me? Yes. I still have access, they haven't revoked it yet. Marcus met Theron's gaze steadily. But if I'm caught helping you, they'll do worse than kill me. They'll make me into an example. Torture me for decades as warning to anyone else who considers betrayal. Then don't come, Elara said quickly. Just tell us how to access the catacombs. You've done enough. No, Marcus stood, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw strength in his bearing. I condemned an innocent king. I let my testimony be weaponized against everything Lisette believed in. I owe her. His voice caught. I owe both of you a debt that can't be repaid. But I can start. Theron studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he extended his hand. Welcome to the losing side, Marcus. We're few in number, but rich in righteous anger. Marcus took his hand, and something passed between them, understanding born of shared loss, shared purpose. When do we go? Marcus asked. Tomorrow night. Theron released his hand. We'll need daylight hours to prepare, gather equipment, and we'll need a strategy that doesn't get us all killed. I might have something for that, Elara said. Both vampires turned to her. Voltaire expects direct assault. They're watching for Theron to do something bold and stupid, like storm their headquarters. I resent the implication, Theron said, but his lips twitched. So we don't storm anything. We infiltrate. Quiet, subtle, like waitstaff at a wedding, invisible until it's too late to stop us. She looked at Marcus. You go in first. Business as usual. Say you're checking on a secure asset for Lord Christoph. Once you're inside, you create a distraction and we slip in during the chaos. Theron finished. It's risky. If Marcus is discovered, everything is risky now, Marcus interrupted. At least this risk means something. Theron nodded slowly. Then we rest today. Prepare tonight. And tomorrow, we raid the catacombs and find our shape-shifting traitor. And if he's not there, Elara asked, then we're out of options and out of time. Theron's expression was grim. And House Mordane falls with me. Marcus cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I won't let that happen. Not again. Not without a fight. Neither will I, Elara added. Theron looked between them, a mortal waitress with more courage than sense, and a fledgling vampire seeking redemption. His allies in an impossible fight against one of the oldest, most powerful houses in existence. His smile was dark and fierce. Then let's make sure our fight counts. Dawn was approaching again. The vampires would need rest soon. But for now, the three of them sat together in the quiet, safe house, planning their assault, building trust from the broken pieces of betrayal. Outside, Voltaire's forces were hunting. Inside, something stronger was forming, not just an alliance, but a bond forged in shared purpose and desperate hope. They had one day to prepare for a mission that would likely kill them all. Elara had never felt more alive. Chapter 9. Into the dark, the catacombs breathed with centuries of death. Elara followed Theron and Marcus through tunnels carved from ancient stone, her flashlight cutting weak paths through darkness so complete it felt solid. The air was thick with moisture and decay, and somewhere in the distance, water dripped with metronomic persistence. Marcus goes in first, Theron whispered, his voice barely audible. Remember, you're checking inventory for Christoph. Routine inspection. Nothing suspicious. Marcus nodded, his face pale even for a vampire. They'd spent the day planning, preparing, and now midnight of their second to last day they were committed. The entrance had been exactly where Marcus described, a concealed door behind the abandoned church's altar. Warded with symbols that made Elara's skin crawl, Marcus had disabled the wards with codes he shouldn't have remembered, but did. Guilt, Theron had explained, had excellent memory. The holding cells are 3 levels down, Marcus said. If Silas is here, that's where they'd keep him. But there are guards, at least 2 vampires per level, plus whatever security systems Voltaire has installed since I last visited. The distraction? Elara prompted. Marcus pulled a small vial from his jacket, liquid that glowed faintly green. Essence of wolfsbane. Toxic to vampires in concentrated form. I'll accidentally break this near the guard station on level 2. The fumes will incapacitate them temporarily, trigger alarms. Everyone will converge on that location, while we slip past to level 3, Theron finished. How long will the distraction last? 5 minutes. Maybe 10, if we're lucky. Marcus met their eyes. After that, they'll realize it's a diversion and start searching. We need to find Silas, extract him, and escape before then. No pressure, Elara muttered. Theron's hand found her shoulder briefly, steadying. You can still stay here. Guard our exit. This is the most dangerous part. We've been over this. She met his gaze. 3 is better than 2. You need me. What she didn't say, that leaving him to face this alone felt wrong in ways she couldn't articulate. That somewhere between the forest and this moment, his survival had become personal, stubborn, Theron said. But something warm flickered in his expression. You're one to talk. She adjusted the silver knife at her belt, insurance against vampires, though she prayed she wouldn't need it. Let's go before I remember. I'm terrified. They descended deeper, the tunnels growing narrower, more oppressive. Elara's heart hammered as they approached the first checkpoint, a modern security door incongruous against ancient stone. Marcus approached alone, while she and Theron pressed into shadows. Evening, Marcus said to the guard, projecting casual authority. Lord Christoph sent me to verify the asset on level 3. Inventory check. The guard, female, with cruel eyes, studied him. I wasn't informed of any inspection. Last-minute request. You know how he gets. Marcus's shrug was perfectly calibrated between respect and annoyance. I can return tomorrow if you'd prefer to clear it with him personally. The threat was subtle, disturb Lord Christoph over routine procedure and face his displeasure. The guard hesitated, then waved him through. Level 3. Cell 7. Don't linger. Wouldn't dream of it. The door opened. Marcus slipped through, and Elara held her breath as it sealed behind him. Seconds stretched. Then an alarm shrieked through the catacombs, harsh, discordant, panicked. Contamination on level 2. All units respond. The guard cursed and sprinted deeper into the tunnels. Theron moved instantly, pulling Elara with him through the now unguarded door. They descended rapidly, passing level 2, where vampires converged on Marcus's position, and reached level 3 as the alarm continued wailing. The cells were exactly as Marcus described, iron doors with silver reinforcement, each marked with numbers. They ran past cells 1 through 6, and stopped at 7. Through the small barred window, Elara saw him. Silas sat on a stone bench, silver chains wrapped around his wrists and ankles. He looked up as they approached, and his face cycled through expressions: surprise, calculation, fear, resignation, before settling on bitter amusement. The Sable King himself. How predictable. His voice was smooth, cultured. Come to kill me before I can testify? Come to make you testify, Theron corrected, working on the door's lock with tools Marcus had provided. The truth this time. In front of the Night Council. Silas laughed. Why would I do that? Voltaire will kill me the moment I implicate them. They're going to kill you anyway. Elara stepped closer to the window. You're a loose end. Once the trial is over and Theron is condemned, you become liability instead of asset. Something flickered in Silas's expression. You're the mortal, the one who freed him from the chains. Yes, she held his gaze. And I'm offering you the same choice. Help us expose Voltaire's conspiracy, and House Mordane will protect you. Stay silent, and you die in this cell, slowly, alone, forgotten. Mordane can't protect anyone. You're barely protecting yourselves. The lock clicked. Theron pulled the door open and stepped inside, and Elara saw Silas tense, readying for violence. But Theron simply stood there, radiating, contained fury and something deeper. You killed Lisette. His voice was quiet, lethal. Wore my face while you did it. Let an innocent fledgling believe I was capable of murdering my own. Voltaire's orders. Silas wouldn't meet his eyes. They needed you discredited, removed. Your laws were making it impossible for them to maintain control through fear, so they chose a young vampire I'd turned, one I cared for, and they had you butcher her. Theron moved closer. Did she beg? When she realized what you were, she fought. Silas's voice was hollow. She was brave, stupid, but brave. Kept saying you'd figure it out, that your house would see through the deception. He finally looked up. She believed in you until the end. The words hit Theron like physical blows. Elara saw his hands tremble, saw grief and rage war across his features. For a moment, she thought he might tear Silas apart, despite their need for his testimony. Then Theron did something she didn't expect. He removed the silver chains with careful, controlled movements. You're going to testify before the Night Council tomorrow, Theron said. You're going to tell them everything: who ordered Lisette's death, how you impersonated me, how Voltaire manufactured evidence. All of it. And if I refuse, then I let Voltaire find you first. Theron's smile was terrible. And believe me, what they'll do to you for being discovered will make my vengeance look merciful by comparison. Silas rubbed his freed wrists, calculation flickering in his eyes. If I testify, I want full immunity. Sanctuary in House Mordane. Protection for the next century. Done. Theron extended his hand. Though it sickens me to offer alliance to my fledgling's murderer, we all do things that sicken us. Silas took his hand. That's what survival in our world requires. The alarm cut off abruptly. In the sudden silence, Elara heard shouting, distant but approaching. They've realized the diversion, she said urgently. We need to move. They ran, Elara, Theron, and Silas racing through tunnels as pursuit echoed behind them. Footsteps multiplied. Voices called commands. The catacombs that had seemed vast now felt like a trap closing in. Where's Marcus? Elara gasped as they reached level 2. There, Theron pointed. Marcus stood surrounded by 4 Voltaire vampires, blood streaming from a wound on his forehead. Vivian stood before him, her expression triumphant. Going somewhere, traitor? She hadn't noticed them yet, focused entirely on Marcus. Did you really think we wouldn't discover your betrayal? Marcus met her gaze steadily, despite his obvious fear. I think some betrayals are worth the cost. Noble. Vivian smiled. Let's see how noble you feel after a decade in silver chains, or, Theron's voice rang out. You could let him go and face someone who can actually fight back. Vivian spun. Saw him. Saw Silas. Her expression shifted from triumph to shock to cold fury. You, me. Theron moved forward, positioning himself between Vivian and their escape route. Let Marcus go. Your fight is with me. My fight, Vivian snarled, is with everyone who defies House Voltaire. Seize them. The tunnel erupted into chaos. Vampires moved with inhuman speed. Theron met them head-on, his movements a blur of controlled violence. Elara pulled Marcus toward the exit, while Silas calculating traitor that he was simply ran. Go. Marcus shoved her forward. Get out. Don't let this be for nothing. Elara hesitated one fatal second and felt cold hands grab her from behind. Got the mortal. Someone shouted. She twisted, drove her elbow back hard, felt satisfying impact. The grip loosened, and she spun, silver knife suddenly in her hand. Her attacker, a male vampire she didn't recognize, hissed and recoiled from the blade. Elara. Theron's voice urgent. He fought through 3 vampires to reach her, moving with desperate speed. I'm fine. She lied, because 2 more vampires were converging. Marcus appeared beside her, bloodied but fighting. The passage north, it leads to surface access. Run. Not without you, run. Theron grabbed her hand and pulled. They ran through darkness, Marcus and Silas ahead, Vivian's furious shouts echoing behind. The tunnel slopped upward, promising escape, freedom, survival. They burst into moonlight in the church's ruined graveyard, gasping, bleeding, alive. But Marcus didn't follow. Elara turned back to see him standing in the tunnel entrance, blocking pursuit. His expression was peaceful, resolved. Go, he called. Tell the council the truth. Make this matter. Marcus, no. Vivian appeared behind him, and Marcus triggered something, a collapse mechanism. The tunnel entrance imploded with deafening sound, sealing shut, sealing Marcus inside with Voltaire's forces. No. Elara lunged forward, but Theron held her back. He made his choice. Theron's voice was raw. Don't let it be in vain. They fled into the night 3 where there should have been 4, carrying testimony, truth, and the weight of Marcus's sacrifice toward one final confrontation. Chapter 10. The Night Council convened in a cathedral that had forgotten God. Elara stood in shadows at the edge of the vast chamber, watching as vampires from 7 great houses assembled. They filled the pews in order of precedence, ancient creatures dressed in everything from medieval finery to modern suits, united only by their inhuman stillness and the weight of centuries in their eyes. The center, raised on a dais, sat the Council of 7, one representative from each house. Vivian represented Voltaire, her platinum hair gleaming under candlelight, her expression serene and confident. The others were strangers to Elara, but their power was palpable. Theron stood in the defendant's circle, isolated, chains of silver thread binding his wrists. Ceremonial, Silas had explained, but capable of real restraint if needed. He looked every inch the fallen king, proud despite his circumstances. Dangerous even in captivity. We convene, intoned the eldest council member, a woman whose face bore the marks of extreme age, even for a vampire, to render final judgment on Theron Mordane, Sable King of House Mordane. Accused of murdering the vampire Lisette in violation of his own laws. She fixed ancient eyes on Theron. Do you wish to speak before sentence is passed? I do. Theron's voice carried through the cathedral without effort. And I bring new evidence. A witness who will testify to the truth of Lisette's murder. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Vivian's confident expression cracked slightly. You were given weeks to present evidence, she said smoothly. The investigation is closed. This is merely delay. I invoke the right of final testimony. Theron cut her off. By the Accords of 1689, any accused may present one final witness before judgment. That right cannot be denied. The eldest council member nodded slowly. The right is valid. Present your witness. Silas emerged from the shadows and the chamber erupted. The shapeshifter. Someone shouted. He's been missing since the murder. Silence. The eldest's voice cracked like thunder. The witness will speak. Silas moved to the testimony circle, his expression carefully neutral. Elara's hand found the silver knife at her belt. They'd discussed this moment endlessly. Silas could still betray them, could lie to protect Voltaire, could doom them all. His only insurance was their promise of protection. And promises meant little in vampire politics. State your name and house, the eldest commanded. Silas of no house. I serve whoever pays best. His honesty was startling. Until recently that was House Voltaire. Vivian stood. This creature has no credibility. He's a mercenary. Did you or did you not commission him for services? The eldest interrupted. Vivian's jaw tightened. We have employed him occasionally. For legitimate purposes. Then his testimony is relevant. The eldest turned to Silas. Speak. Silas took a breath, unnecessary for a vampire, but the habit of appearing human died hard. 3 months ago, Lord Christophe of House Voltaire hired me to impersonate Theron Mordane. He provided detailed intelligence, mannerisms, speech patterns, distinctive movements. Told me I would need to perform one task while wearing the Sable King's face. The chamber was utterly silent. That task was to murder Lisette, Theron's fledgling, in such a way that witnesses would believe the Sable King had done it himself. Silas's voice remained steady. I was paid half in advance, promised the remainder after Theron's conviction. I was also promised that if I spoke of this to anyone, Voltaire would kill everyone I'd ever protected. Lies. Vivian's composure shattered. This is a desperate fabrication by a cornered king. I have proof. Silas pulled a small device from his pocket. Recordings of my conversations with Lord Christophe. Contracts bearing Voltaire's seal. Transfer records showing payment. he placed them on the testimony altar. Everything you need to verify my claims, the eldest council member gestured, and attendants retrieved the evidence. The chamber buzzed with urgent whispers as the materials were examined. Elara watched Vivian's face cycle through emotions: rage, calculation, fear. This was the moment. Either the council would accept the truth, or politics would override justice. These documents appear authentic, the eldest announced finally. Lord Christophe's seal, financial records from Voltaire's accounts, recordings that match his voice. She turned to Vivian. How do you answer these accusations? Vivian stood silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled. Cleverly done, Theron. You found our asset, turned him, fabricated evidence. It's almost admirable. The evidence isn't fabricated, Theron said quietly. And you know it. What I know, Vivian's voice turned steel, is that this council has grown weak, afraid to exercise real power. You've let the Sable King restrict our nature with his precious consent laws, his protections for mortals, his limitations on our strength. She looked around the chamber. Lisette's death was necessary. She discovered our plans to challenge Mordane's ridiculous restrictions. She would have exposed us before we were ready. The admission hit like a shockwave. You confess? The eldest leaned forward. You admit House Voltaire orchestrated this murder and conspiracy? I admit we did what was necessary to preserve our way of life. Vivian's eyes blazed. And I'd do it again. Mortals are food, not partners. Vampires are predators, not politicians. Theron's laws have made us weak. It was time for strong leadership to remind everyone what we truly are. In the chaos that followed, council members shouting, houses taking sides, the ancient chamber erupting into barely contained violence, Elara felt Theron's eyes find hers across the distance. He mouthed two words, thank you. The eldest council member stood, her power radiating outward in waves that silenced the assembly. House Voltaire has confessed to murder, conspiracy, and violation of the accords. Theron Mordane is hereby exonerated of all charges. She turned to Vivian. You and Lord Christophe will face the council's judgment. House Voltaire's territories are forfeit until Vivian moved with shocking speed, pulling a blade from her robes. Not toward the council, but toward Elara. If we fall, she snarled, your precious mortal falls with you. Everything happened at once. Theron's chains, ceremonial but reinforced, shattered as he pulled with impossible strength. He crossed the distance in a blur, intercepting Vivian before her blade could reach Elara. They collided with force that cracked the stone floor. Fighting with the savage intensity of ancient predators, Elara drew her silver knife. Though she knew it was useless against this level of violence, other vampires joined the fray, some defending Theron, others supporting Voltaire's rebellion. The cathedral descended into war. Silas appeared beside Elara. We should run. Not without him. He's fighting a war. You're mortal. You'll just. Elara saw it before Silas finished. Another Voltaire vampire, flanking Theron, blade raised for a killing strike while he fought Vivian. No time to shout warning. No time for anything but instinct. She threw herself forward, silver knife extended, and drove it into the attacking vampire's back. The creature shrieked an inhuman sound of agony and collapsed. Silver to the heart, just as Theron had taught her. Incapacitating, maybe fatal if left long enough. Theron spun, saw her, saw what she'd done. In that moment of distraction, Vivian struck her blade, opening a deep gash across his chest. No. Elara's voice broke, but Theron was already moving. He caught Vivian's wrist, twisted, and with savage precision, ended the fight. The Voltaire lieutenant crumpled, and the remaining rebels, seeing their leader fall, surrendered or fled. Silence descended. Broken only by heavy breathing and the drip of blood on stone, the eldest council member surveyed the carnage. Let it be known, House Voltaire is dissolved, its members scattered, its territories redistributed. She looked at Theron, now being tended by attendants. House Mordane is exonerated and restored. The Sable King's laws remain in force. Theron pushed away the attendants and crossed to Elara. You stabbed a vampire. You're welcome? His laugh was raw, tinged with pain and relief and something warmer. You saved my life. Again, I'm starting to see a pattern. Partners, she reminded him. That was the deal. He studied her, this mortal woman who'd freed him from chains, negotiated with assassins, infiltrated enemy territory, and just killed a vampire to protect him. I need to revise our partnership terms. Oh, you're not just my ally anymore. He said it formally, loud enough for the council to hear. I claim you as House Mordane, under my protection, with full rights and privileges. If any vampire touches you, they answer to me." The declaration rippled through the assembly. It was more than protection, it was adoption into his house, recognition as family. Elar's throat tightened. "That's a lot of commitment for someone you've known less than a week. I've known warriors for centuries who never showed half your courage." His expression softened. "And I've learned that time matters less than action. You've proven yourself, repeatedly, maddeningly, so I'm stuck with you now? Indefinitely." His smile was genuine, warm, almost human. "Unless you'd prefer to return to waiting tables?" Elara looked around the cathedral at vampires bowing their respect to Theron, at Silas hovering uncertainly, at the Night Council watching with ancient calculation. This world was dangerous, inhuman, governed by laws she barely understood, but it was also a world where courage mattered, where loyalty was rewarded, where she wasn't invisible or disposable, but valued, claimed, protected.